tell me a little bit about the exhibit?
Yes, Roads to Freedom, and there are many roads to freedom. As you can see, starting over here with our Colonial Period, and then the Underground Railroad, which happened over in Colombia, and then we have more contemporary pictures, and we have these here in the middle. Yeah, once again, roads to freedom take many paths, and this is the Colonial Period. And Lancaster, at that time, did have those who were enslaved here in Lancaster. They were an integral part of the economic society here. So they worked on the farms, and they were roof makers and chimney sweepers and barber shop persons. So there was a significant population here that helped build the wealth in Lancaster County.
In what years was the Colonial Period?
Yeah, probably I'll just say 1780. That's when the first Slavery Abolitional Act was, and then the gradual Appellation Act was in 1788. They amended it in 1788.
Okay.
Yes, it's the Underground Railroad that took many pathways, but we have a significant story that is connected to Columbia and Wrightsville.
Okay.
John Wright was an important figure there, but the two main characters was Stephen Smith and William Whipper, and they owned up to 22 railroad cars, and they carried they carried coal, and they carried lumber, but they also found a secret compartment for those who were enslaved, and they hid them there, and those freedom seekers were able to seek their freedom coming through Lancaster and on their way to Philadelphia, where there's a larger population, black population.
Wow. So right here in Lancaster County, we had the Underground Railroad.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, probably just to mention that the Mifflin House was important. It was called a safe house, and we see Toe Hill. Toe Hill was also a location where a lot of the black population gathered. At one point, Columbia had more black people than Lancaster did at one point in their history. And I do want to mention about the Columbia Bank. William Whipper and Stephen Smith in particular, gained a lot of wealth. He was a lumber merchant, and he learned his lumber merchant's business from Thomas Bowl, who once lived in Lancaster but moved to the Columbia area. But his wealth was he had so much wealth that he had more wealth than anyone in Columbia. Mm-hmm. So when you had more money in the bank than anyone else, you were able to be the president of that bank.
Oh, wow.
But he was a black person, so he wasn't able to be the president, but they allowed him to pick the president. I always think that she is extremely significant, Laura Carter, because she was the first president of the Lancaster NAACP. Woman. I thought that was very, very interesting back in 1923. We also have Diana Mcintosh, who was formerly enslaved, a member of St. James Church. She lived to be 113 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, she was a fortune teller and a very significant person in their population. James Clendenin was one of the persons who started Bethel Amity Church. They came out of St. James Church. And then we have here, more contemporary, is Reverend Alexander Steffens, who is still living, and he was head of the NAACP, and he also was one of the persons who organized the march against Rocky Springs, who wouldn't allow us to swim in their swimming pool.
Wow. So these are all Lancaster natives?
Yes. And then here we have, of course, Lilia Hamilton Smith, who was very significant. She was a businesswoman, was Thaddeus Stevens' confidant. We have Robert Boston, who had a barber shop right downtown, and was connected to Thaddeus Stevens as one of the spies. And he also was connected to Bethel Amity Church. We have William Payne, who was the head chef, formerly enslaved at the Hamilton Club. William Whipper is also very significant with Stephen Smith. William Parker. Yes, moving from left to right, here you see the Civic Negro League. And, you know, my grandfather, Abraham Lawrence Polite Sr., was the last sitting president of the Negro Civic League, which gave way to the NAACP. Here you see them making a pilgrimage to Thaddeus Stevens' gravesite. They did this each year to pay homage to him because he was very significant in the African American plight for freedom. Yeah, they're exactly what they are. It's called the Green Book. The Green Book was started by Hugo Green. He was a mail carrier up in Harlem, New York. And he, at that particular time, between 1920s and 1960s, it was very difficult for African Americans to find any place, as I mentioned, to stop and lodge, to get a haircut, to get food. So he set up this green book that identified different locations that the African American could stop at as they were traveling in the country.
Wow.
A safe place for them.
Wow.
Now, the house here, 540 North Street, which is the house that my father was born in, and I was raised in, was purchased by my grandfather and grandmother. So they were a part of the Green Book, meaning you could come to 540 North Street and have safe housing there.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's 3 houses in Lancaster at that time. And this is the only residence that is standing now, is 540 North Street. And then, once again, here is my grandparents, and here is my parents.
Yeah, do you want to talk a little bit more about like your family's legacy in Lancaster and kind of, you know, how they shaped what the city is today? I think they've had a lot of influence. I know you talked a little bit about it earlier.
Right.
I guess in relation to this, I think it says a lot about how significant your family has been for Lancaster.
Yeah, once again, you know, the Polite family's always been significant. And they because they love their community, they love their church, they love their community, they love their family. And that was at the heart of it. And they expressed that in many ways by being involved. And my grandfather and father were involved in many activities along with my grandmother and also my mother. She ran the food bank for many years at Bethel AME Church. So just very involved in the community. I think what we want to do now in moving forward, we're coming up on the 100 years of my father's, it would have been 100 years that he'd be old, and because he passed in 2016, yesterday was 6 years. And in 2023, he would have been 100 years old. So what we want to do is we want to celebrate not only his birthday in 2023, but also my grandfather. We want to celebrate the contributions of 100 years of contributions between the two of them that they made to this city.
Yeah.
So we would like to, we connected with the new library folks, and we'd like to have a section named after my father in that new and up and coming library.